this time, I'll call the December 4th, 2023 County Council meeting to order. I want to welcome all of you here tonight who are here for tonight's meeting. At this time, I'll recognize the Honorable Debbie Cloninger from District 7 for the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, as we meet this day, may our decisions be pleasing to you. Father, we trust in you to give us wisdom as you guide and lead us through discussions. May we carry out your will in all we do and say this day. In the name of Jesus, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Tonight, we do not have any oath of offices to do tonight, but we do have a special appearance, and that is to have council and other staff recognize Alan Brandon on his retirement from York County. David, would you like to take that over?
Yes, I'm going to say a few words about Alan. For those you may not know, Alan works for both me and Sheriff Tolson. So I feel sure Sheriff Tolson has way more stories than I do. So I'm going to take care of the logistics and just introduce him. But I have known Alan. He told me today he started in law enforcement in 1983 and with York County in 1985. So I'm going to miss him for a lot of reasons. One is that's one less person I can discuss the 1980s with that still works for us. But he did 30 years with us in law enforcement, and for the last 8, he has been our public safety communications director. That's our 911 center, so very important job. A lot of things to consider in that job, and he's done a great job, and we'll miss him for all those reasons. So I just want to take a minute to personally thank him for the job he's done for the county, and on behalf of council and our staff, and I'll let Sheriff Tolson say a few words about him as well.
Well, good evening. It is an honor and a privilege to stand in front of you and say a few great words about Alan Brandon. Alan was my first supervisor in narcotics, and I never knew a harder working, dedicated, intelligent, pragmatic individual as Alan Brandon. 40 plus years of dedicating his life to York County and this community in a number of capacities. He came up through the ranks. He was my narcotics lieutenant. He was eventually the patrol captain at the sheriff's office. And then when the 911 director's position opened, Alan went on to do a phenomenal job there. We shared some really good times, shared at least one scary time, and we shared some sad times, but Alan was always one that I could count on, and over my 31 years of law enforcement, all around Alan, the very few disagreements that Alan and I would have were never anything but civil. Alan was willing to listen and listen to all sides and render a fair decision if it was a decision that he needed to make. He is sort of like me. His beautiful wife was in law enforcement for many years, still in public service, correct? And he's got 2 wonderful children, and he raised the best Brandon police officer in that house. That's all I'm going to roast Alan. But Alan, thank you so much. Thank you for how you treated me. I took a lot from that. Thank you for your many years
behalf of council, I do want to just say, thank you for your years of service. I know all of us would say the same thing. You have been committed to public safety. I know when I'm out in restaurants and I run across you and your family, every time I run into you, we don't talk about how good the meal was. We talk about what can we do to better protect the people in our community. And that's something that I think is laudable. That's something from your heart, and that you have, the county has been served well by you serving at the helm here, and we very much appreciate the job that you have done, and we certainly wish you well as you move forward to bigger and maybe better things.
Thank you, Ms. Cox. Council, management, I think everybody that's in front of me tonight, I have specifically spent time with one time or another. Ms. Love and I spent a Saturday together, not recently, up in Clover for Halloween, handing out candy to kids and trying to get the word out about our 911 center and public safety in general. And I appreciate you and running across you in different places. And those of you that have come in and spent time with me in the center to kind of figure out what 911 does. Brandon Guffey came to me many years ago and said, you know, how can I vote on something if I don't really know anything about it? Your budget's due. I really want to know how we're spending money. And so we spent probably an hour and a half that day going over everything and answered all his questions. And I encourage each one of you to kind of do the same thing. If you don't know what the 911 center is about, or you have questions about what the sheriff is doing or how he's running the sheriff's office, I encourage you to ask, to get out and to watch and to partake of that. I think everyone here, you know, Mr. Hudspeth and county management, it's been a great opportunity to be with him and others that have managed me through the years. Sheriff Tolson, I didn't know which way he was going because we've spent a lot of time together over the years, some good, some bad, and some unfortunate. But yet I appreciate him as well. He has a fine, probably the finest sheriff's office in the state of South Carolina. Some of the most hardest working individuals in the state of South Carolina. Progressive as the unit, as the sheriff's office is, you will find no better employees. I am blessed to be here tonight. 40 years is a long time. I am blessed to be flanked by my family. My wife of 33 years. To one lady. Some police officers you ask that, well, it's my third wife, and it's been 33 years, but I certainly have been blessed to be with her for all this time. She is supportive. She has backed me because I can assure you there have been many times I've rolled out of the bed. I've left her at restaurants to go with other people to take care of business. And she has supported me through those years and been very supportive, and I thank you for that. Also, my son, I don't know why he would want to follow into law enforcement. I tried to do everything I could to talk him into something else. However, but it seemed to be in his blood. And so I'm very proud of him and the steps that he's made. Liam, to do what he is doing as a deputy on the road to protect all of us as we lay in bed at night. I do appreciate him. I have a daughter that is not here. She is in Louisville, Kentucky. She is a neonatal nurse. She works in the ER there, and she does a great job. She is a manager today in that unit, overseeing patient care. And also have been blessed to have a daughter-in-law, Allie, to be a part of our family, which is pregnant, expecting our first grandchild after the first of the year. So we're excited for that. So that may be my first full-time job as I leave. And I'm excited for that as well. Stephen is my son-in-law in Louisville. He works for the University of Louisville, and he is with the sports department. And maybe if Louisville, some of you saw them on ESPN this weekend, he does the sports writing for their major sports and stuff. And so I'm really proud of him. As you can see, everyone in our family does work for public safety or in the realm that we're in, serving the public. And also, I would be remiss if I didn't remind you of one person that is Romanoff Gene. He is working tonight in Fort Mill. He is a deputy for Sheriff Tolson. My son was his college roommate. They played soccer together. He came here. He's been like an adoptive son, popping in and out of the house, staying with us from time to time until he was able to get a job with the sheriff, and I'm proud of him as well, that he's there. Sheriff did mention it, and also David mentioned it, but I did start with TKK. I spent 18 months there under Chief Jim Walden. I don't know what he saw in a 20-year-old. I wasn't even old enough to carry a weapon, but he allowed me to come on to the force and help him form a police department that we didn't even have letterhead. And it was brand new at the time in '83. And I appreciate the opportunity that he gave me then. Just for giggles and grins, my starting salary was $11,000. And today I wonder what I did with all that money. July 1st, 1985, Sheriff Pope offered me a position along with Jeff Helms, who I started law enforcement with, coming from TKK. Chief Helms is since retired, but a great individual and a good friend. But Sheriff Pope was my first sheriff. I've had 5, 6 if you want to count an interim sheriff for just a short period of time. But Sheriff Pope, I appreciate him and Tommy as well, because I had an opportunity to meet Tommy and do many, many things with Tommy as well. But narcotics was something that seemed to be in my blood. I spent 10 years there, supervising for 8. And I made a comment to Mr. Hudspeth a while back. I said, David, I've been on call since 1987, 24/7. I was a deputy of not so much, but 1987 is when I started waking up in the middle of the night, taking care of business as we needed to. 2001, I became the captain over the Uniform Patrol Division. I had 120 employees at the time, and encompassed everything from civil process warrants, patrol, the whole county. It wasn't set up in districts as it is today. But we took care of everybody that you saw in a patrol car. They belonged to the patrol division. Had an anti-crime team, a traffic unit. There was a lot there. There was a lot to take care of. And I appreciate every opportunity we had to serve the public in that time. Sometimes memory is good. Sometimes, there's things that you recall. I'm proud of certain things, and I won't go through the whole list. But there are certain things I'm very proud of that we were accomplishing here. And when I was in narcotics, we worked with any acronym, FBI, DEA, the OCDF task forces. I dealt strictly with SLED. I worked with SLED. I worked with the statewide grand jury on cases in and around York County and the state. I even called my wife one afternoon. I said, honey, I packed a bag. I don't know where I'm going. We're working a case. I think I'm headed to Atlanta, but I may see you in a week or 2. And sure enough, it was a week later. This one I got to come back home. So you just never know where law enforcement may take you. I'm proud of the patrol division and the things we were able to accomplish. When I came in 2001, we didn't have the first video camera, body transmitter, taser, anything. We had radios that were in the cars, and that was about it. But we have a phenomenal radio system, and I see John Carter sitting here, and I'll give him kudos and a lot more, because he was one of the ones pivotal to make sure we had one of the best, if not the best, radio system in the state that EMS, fire, and police can work with. But that came along, a long time ago as well. But we were able to secure things for the patrol division, for the sheriff's office, such as tasers, less than lethal carries, beanbag rounds. We transitioned to rifles because we were sorely being outgunned and outmanned by people in the public. We made many changes. The striping of the cars was something I did many years ago, and we did it for a reason, so we could be better seen, better observed, and it's 3M striping, so it's reflective at night to make sure that people know that we're out there protecting and serving. The good and the bad. Some of the things I can tell you, I know from personal experience, and the sheriff spoke briefly on a couple of things, but I do know what it's like to walk into a kidnapping at 6:45 in the morning and find out it was a murder-suicide plot, and walk into that, and it turned out good too. No one was hurt, but it's just rough waking up that early in the morning, and that's your first call for service of the day. I know what it's like to respond to a bridge when there's a trooper hanging on to someone wanting to kill themselves. and all of a sudden myself and other deputies surround them and pull the person back from the railing, and we then end up subduing him and helping the trooper, which could not have lasted more seconds because he just folded like a wet dish rag at that time, and we transported him to the hospital and took care of him that night as well. I do know what it's like to walk into a child abuse situation where kids are being abused. You weren't there for that reason, but you see it because of the things that God gives you, the abilities to see, discern, and then take those kids out of the environment they're in. And it's up to the courts to give them back or keep them. Disheartening cases. I do know what it's like to ride up on someone on Highway 21 that's just been raped because a car was broken down on the side of the highway. I do know what it's like to ride up on Highway 901, the same thing happened, South Cherry Road and 901, to come across someone that's like that. I also know what it's like in a critical incident that the sheriff spoke of earlier. I do know what it's like to be in a situation where it's a domestic and we're forced to do nothing else but protect ourselves, and unfortunately someone died that night. I also know what it's like to be in an office or out on patrol and you have a line of duty death like Brent McCants. I can still remember getting home very, very late that night and my wife meeting me in the doorway. Some things you don't forget. And then on the other side is Mike Doty. Those things will wear on you after a few years, and it's tough. You have to have good support. That's why I mentioned my wife earlier, that mechanism to do there. Mental health is tough these days because of the things you see, things you think of, things you lay in bed at 1:30 in the morning, you can't sleep, and things just pop up. Those are the things that keep you up at night. October 12th, 2015 was a great day. That's when I took over the 911 center. I thought I was getting away from the frying pan, but I just really kind of hopped into the fire all over again. I've been there for 8 years. I have a great staff that I manage. I started with Ruth, Carlton Carter, Karen McClure, Gina Aaron, and John Carter. They're great folks. They're great managers. They keep me up and they keep things level. They keep things going. They keep things moving in the right direction for us. I've served with the FBI National Academy in my younger days at the Sheriff's Office. That's a very notable distinction among people who serve in law enforcement. It's the Harvard of law schools for law enforcement. I was able to go to Quantico for 3 months to the FBI Academy to achieve that. And that's one of the pinnacles of my career. Also, I served on state boards with the 911 Center with South Carolina, NENA, and ABCO. I've only been in the 911 Center for 8 years, but I've served 7 years on that state board, and we'll retire the 31st of this month with that. Things I'm proud of at the center, we have a lot of technology there. Technology is expensive, and I just remind you of that as you go through my budget and other budgets to keep up. The IT department here does a phenomenal job keeping all of us afloat, and as they can tell you, technology is expensive. We do the same thing at our center that the IT does here with servers, with computers, with all the infrastructure, hardware and wiring, switches, and IP addresses to mobile side, IP addresses to internal side as well. But it's a lot going on to keep a center up. Currently, we have 10 trainees that are going through training. They're going to be really good once they get there, but it takes 6 months to formally train someone in our 911 center so that they can work and do what they need to do to help you all and help our citizens and first responders. Keep this in mind, that our 911 workers are public safety workers as well. We're often forgotten about it in the 911 center. And it's difficult at best to continue to strive and to do right. I do appreciate the study that everybody did, that you guys took care of for us as a county recently, because that means a lot. Salary and benefits do mean a lot. But I'll tell you, our most valuable asset to York County, you can ask anybody, is our employees. Our employees, they are the #1 function. I would just tell you that They answer the phone day and night over there. Not only them, but the deputies are out on the road. The EMS workers, the firemen, they always work. They work hard. You'll never know what it's like to be on the other end of a phone and hear someone crying or screaming. Just gut-wrenching to listen to a mother or a father dealing with a child that's dying for whatever reason. Those are things you can't get out of your head, because as a dispatcher, I learned at the sheriff's office, you get to see and understand outcomes. There, you don't get to see or understand the outcomes because you're on the phone with them and everything else is happening on scene. I also know what it's like to hear someone on the radio or through a phone conversation. They're in a tragic situation. So their house is burning down. They are at wit's end. They don't know what's going on, but yet you're trying to get them help as quickly as possible. I also know what it's like to be on the other end of the phone and all of a sudden you get a phone call that there's multiple bodies laying in a residence. Why? We don't know. But they appear to have been killed. These are things, and the only reason I mention these things to you is because of several things. I've had to call upon the sheriff's psychologist to come and to visit with our folks over the past 2 months to deal with a lot of the things I just told you about. And it's unfortunate. We live in a society where crime is going to happen, bad things are going to happen. But our employees are our greatest benefit. We can't forget about them. We can't forget about the mental health that they so need assistance with. And then serving. They serve selfishly. When COVID came along, I was at work every day along with my staff, answering phones. We were doing everything we could. I've never lived through a pandemic until COVID, as many of you. I do know what it's like going to work every day. I do know what it's like answering the phone because somebody can't breathe on the other end because of complications of a disease or an illness. It's bittersweet that 40 years has come and gone. That's a long time. I truly hope that one of the days coming up, I'll be able to sleep through the night, quit thinking about the phone ringing, checking email at 1:32, 3 o'clock in the morning and answering, or thinking about my agenda for the next day. York County is 685 square miles. I've been pretty much all through it throughout my career. Narcotics, I flew a lot of it. We pulled a lot of marijuana throughout the county. We made a lot of drug deals throughout the county, taking things off the street. But I've been on a lot of crime scenes throughout the county as well. I can't ride down too many streets without understanding what's happened on this street or what has potentially happened there years ago. There's a lot of people, and I certainly don't want to start naming names, but there's folks here at the county that they truly, Linda Norris is one. You have a good admin, you guys do. Lisa Davidson's another. She is a lifeline to many of those, our HR director, and she is so important to this organization. But I will leave you with this. Matthew 5:9 says, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the sons of God." And I say that because they truly are. What my employees do, what the deputies on the road do, what those guys and ladies in the detention do, they're peacemakers. They didn't probably grow up dreaming to do this. They may have. I knew what I wanted to do when I was a kid, and I did it. And that's why it's taken me 4 years to get through it. But there are some of those folks that are there because they're called by God to do the job they're doing today. I honestly believe that with all my heart. Without them, can you imagine being at your house, somebody breaking in on top of you, somebody trying to hurt you or a family member? You have a child there that can't breathe, and you pick up the phone and call us and no one answers. I can't imagine what it would be like on the other end, because I've heard the voices when they do get the answer. And we're trying to help them do EMD preparation to help them clear their airway or breathe or something, or be on the phone with you until the sheriff's office arrives. I can't imagine what it would be like without the public servants we have in fire, medical, police, and the calling that they have, because it is of God. But I just tell you, thank you for the opportunity. There's been good, there's been bad, but there's been a whole lot more good than there ever was bad. But I just think that the younger generation of today, as you look around, these guys dressed in here, Sergeant and Mark over there, they have careers. And I just pray that you will continue to support us in public safety, because we have a lot of people moving in here, and their expectations are very high coming from where they were. And I can tell you, we don't need to deliver a second-rate service to anyone. And I just applaud what you've done thus far. Continue to do more. I know everybody comes to you. I hear Kevin's spiel every year, we can't do this, we can't do that, but somehow we make it work. But this time coming up in another month, it's budget time for everybody to start preparing, start doing. I just ask for you to try and take care of our public servants that are out there, all the other county employees as well. But our public servants see and hear stuff they can't forget. And I appreciate each one of them for doing their job. Thank you for putting up with us. You have a tough job as well, but I know that through the years, some of you I've worked with for a number of years, I appreciate you. And if there's ever anything I can do, please give me a call.
A picture, 40 years of public service, that's a long time. We do appreciate your service. If you want to bring your family up, y'all want to come up? Sure. Thank you, Alan.
Thank you for your service, Alan.
We move now to our public forum session, which allows us as council to hear from residents who have signed up in advance to speak to the council. We do have a few folks that have signed up. Just a few things that I say every time. If you will please state your name and give your address when you come forward. And if you'll pay attention to the minute marks, at this point, we reserve 2 minutes for each speaker. And if you can kindly pay attention to that, it will turn to yellow when you're getting close to your time, and then it'll turn to red when your 2 minutes is up. And if you can cut off your comments then I don't have to do it and be rude. We do have a couple of folks that have signed up for public hearing item, and you are more than welcome to do your 2 minutes now, or you can wait until the public hearing, which is actually the next item once we approve consent agenda, and then your time is not, you're not timed. You can have as much time as you want to communicate your thoughts, but you certainly have the right, since you signed up, to come do your 2 minutes. It just is a matter of preference as to which time you want to come forward. Our first individual is Penny Shepard.
Good evening, everybody. Penny Shepard, 1095 Palmyra Drive, TDK, South Carolina, obviously. And I am also the chairperson of the Culture and Heritage Commission. And I just wanted, I'm not going to take up a lot of your time. I just wanted to ask you to consider not reducing our ex officio members. I understand the desire to balance voting members, like at-large members, because they could heavily sway, one district over another. But our ex officio members are non-voting members, and in my tenure on the commission, they have brought incredible value. They have not overlapped history or knowledge of other commissioners. We have a historian, local, Eddie Lee, a local expert on our history locally. And we have the only commissioner right now that has children in the elementary age, which is a very large part of our audience. And so they bring us insight, and rather than influence. They bring insight to things that we don't necessarily have access to or current memories of. My kid's 28, so, And so I just would really like you to strongly consider that. They're non-voting members, and they just bring us information that we wouldn't otherwise have. So that's about it.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I think this is VG Truesdale Jr. Public hearing, okay. Mac Pope. Wait for the public hearing, okay. And there's another individual who scratched their name off, Ted Nisbet, but I'm assuming that they intentionally scratched that off. So if not, raise your hand. And that concludes our public forum session. Do we have a motion on consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve consent agenda. Any discussion?
Yes. Item number 12, I'd like to move to old business. Pull out of consent, move to old business for discussion.
All right, so we're moving number 12. As a matter of process, the council allows for any matter that's within consent to be removed by one council member. That's all it takes to remove it from consent. We will move item number 12 to old business. Are there any other removals? I assume your motion is with the amendment
Yes, please.
in the second.
No, not anymore.
All right. So the motion is to, I think we automatically remove it out. So the motion is to approve consent agenda as amended. Do we have a new second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Is that on opposition?
No.
Okay. Motion carries. Move now to our public hearing. First item is a rezoning action. Hold a public hearing and consider first reading, case number 23-35, tax map number 44900000063, to rezone from RMX 20 to RI, 2.18 acre parcel in District 3. Do we have Ms. Dill?
Thank you. This case is to rezone a 2-acre parcel from RMX 20 to RI. It's located at the intersection of North Shiloh Road and Old York Road. The use for this property is for a boat and RV storage and also a contractor office there. Staff recommends approval with the following condition. We're requesting you to add the condition to construct a 6-foot-high earthen berm with plantings on the top on the parcel's northern boundary. The final design to be determined actually during the civil construction review process. This request aligns with the comprehensive plan because the rural center node, it supports the rural industrial zoning district, and it's also adjacent to some properties already zoned RI, light industrial. With the vote of 8-0, Planning Commission also recommend approval.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions for staff before we move into public hearing?
What is RI?
Rural industrial,
Oh, rural industrial. Okay.
it's a brand-new district that came with written free code.
Any other questions? Is there anyone here who wishes to speak against this request? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor?
Move to close.
Second.
Motion and a second to close public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the public hearing is closed. Do we have a new motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. We move now to item number 2 of the public hearing, rezoning action. Hold a public hearing and consider first reading, case number 23-42, tax map number 58100000063, to rezone from RMX 10 to RUD, 17.4 acre parcel in District 2. Ms. Dill.
Yes, the request this evening is to rezone from RMX 10 to RUD. It's located on Sandlapper Drive in Clover. It's 17.48 acres. This parcel is located at the end of the peninsula where the Duke Energy plant is. The applicant proposes to subdivide the property to create 3 separate lots. It was created from a previous subdivision, therefore it's considered a major subdivision. And with RMX 10, they're required to put in open space. By rezoning the parcel to RUD, they can remove that requirement to have any kind of open space, and that's why they're getting the property rezoned from RMX 10 to RUD. For this one, staff recommends approval, in line with the comprehensive plan, the future land use map. Their uses are similar to the ones in the area here. There are similar lot sizes also in this area here. Planning Commission also recommended approval.
Any questions for staff?
So Diane, thank you, but question. So this takes it from not being major subdivision to having to being major subdivision?
No, it's still a major subdivision, so it's still coming for Planning Commission for final plat approval. However, they don't require to put any kind of open space. So it's still major, but with RUD, there's no open space requirement. And that's the only change that's happening here. So as they'll be doing, and they'll be, as you can see from that site plan, they're gonna create 3 separate parcels. Had it came in at RMX 10, they would have to actually create area where there was open space and subdivide that as a separate parcel for open space. And so they'll still have plenty of open space, just not public open space.
So basically what they're asking to do is they're asking to divide this into 3 5-acre lots. So, you know, when we say no open space, it sounds kind of bad. It sounds like, okay, we're not saving any open space, but
Sure,
but technically you got 5-acre yards,
correct.
personal yards,
Yeah,
rather than something, I guess, that neighbors could walk through and, okay.
that's correct.
I have a question.
Mr. Roddy?
Should we be looking to remove the requirement for open space if we have a 5-acre tract subdivision going forward? Because if we're removing it now, you're basically saying there's no need for it anyway, if we got 5 acres.
I think we've already removed open space to just having it from RUD and AGC. I think that's probably enough as it is, as opposed to going by a certain lot size. Most lots that are this large aren't coming in the RMX 10 district anyway. This is very unusual to have this kind of division in RMX 10.
Couple more questions. So if it's a major subdivision, are they having to put in roads? Are they having to put in, I mean, what?
No, so
okay.
they're required to follow, they come to Planning Commission to get Planning Commission approval, but because they are 5-acre lots, they're exempt from certain parts of the code, including any kind of road improvements.
But I thought a major subdivision had specific.
Unless they're 5 acres and greater, they're exempt from those sections of the code that require any kind of improvements to the roads.
And what keeps this from, what keeps the other parcels there from doing the same thing or going below the 5-acre?
You mean the new parcels they're gonna be creating? Or what about other
So
parcels?
can they come back again and subdivide this further?
Yes, ma'am. They could, if they chose to, they could come back and put it in as 1-acre lots, because they're now RUD. However, as it's currently zoned at RMX 10, they can do a 10,000 square foot lot if they had water and sewer.
Okay.
So, quick question, Diane. So with this request, there's no road requirements. Would that mean the development, though, would maintain their road, or would it still be?
There are existing county roads there. They just
Okay.
haven't been approved to county standard. I think there's still probably get gravel roads through there, but there are gravel roads through there.
There's gravel roads, but it still would fall under the county maintenance
Correct.
level? Oh,
Yes.
Okay. And as far as water and sewer, so at that size, they could run a septic in there as opposed to water or
Correct. It'd be well and septic.
well and septic? Okay. Okay, all right, thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Thank you, Diane. Is there anyone here who wishes to speak against this rezoning? If you want to come forward and give your comments then. If you'll please just state your name and address for the record.
Yes, my name is Mac Pogue. We live at 3810 Concord Road here in York. She's talking about the 17 acres, subdividing it down to 5 acres. Then she made a statement of if it's greater than 5 acres, it was a restriction. Is that correct?
We can talk outside if you like.
Well, so you got 17 acres, and if you divide them into 3 5 acres, where's the other 2?
It's roughly 5. It's probably going to be 2 5s and a 7. It's some number.
Okay, so,
Three lots.
so the 3 lots, so one of them therefore technically is going to be larger than 5 acres. All right, so your statement that you made is what I was concerned with. There was some additional restriction. What was it that she said about the additional, 5 acres?
Diane, I think you might make clear some things, though. You said 10,000 square feet is what is allowed under RMX 10. Can you equate that to how many units per acre is allowed
Sure.
by
So,
right?
As it's currently zoned RMX 10, they could get 10,000 square foot lots at a density of 2.5 units per acre, as it's currently zoned. The 5 acre standard there, that's simply a matter of, there's a section within the code that has an exemption or allowance. And if you have a 5 acre or greater, then you're exempt from any kind of the road improvement requirements for subdivisions. And so that's a state law that we also adhere in the county as well. So that's why that 5 acre distinction is made. But there, I think you can see from the plat, and if I go back, I'm probably gonna mess up. Okay. Yeah, these 3 lots are probably maybe 7, 6, and 5. I'm not sure the exact numbers of that, but 17.4 acres of it divided into 3 separate lots. So I don't know if that's gonna help your
Yeah.
questions or whatever, but that's
Yeah,
how
when
it's.
when you said that 5 acres or greater, then that's where I was concerned. What was that, Sheriff?
Thank you. Is there anyone who wishes to speak against? If you want to come forward. You need to come forward so that your comments get on the record. Please state your name and address.
My name's Larry Bergen. I live 2224 Duck Cove Lane, so I'm adjacent to this track. And I think the concern the neighborhood has is that I don't think anyone disagrees with dividing this into these sizes, but we would have real constraints on the bridge, the neighborhood, the water and sewer, if these became further subdivided into smaller lots. If we can confirm that they won't be divided into further lots down the road, I don't think the neighborhood has any heartburn with this. But I wasn't quite hearing that. And so if RUD allows for horses great, but if it doesn't allow for further subdivision into smaller lots, that's my question.
Thank you, sir. We'll take that up typically in discussion. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak against? Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor?
Move to close.
Second.
Motion and a second to close public hearing. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none. Public hearing is now closed. Do we have a new motion?
Motion to approve with the condition that there would not be further subdivision.
Second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion?
If we pass this, is the county exposing itself to any other liability, paving roads or any infrastructure around this at any point in time in the future? With the exception that Councilwoman Love has asked to include in the motion?
My understanding is they're county maintained roads right now, and there would be no change into that,
Nothing else.
nothing. The only change would be if the developer did develop lots smaller than the 5 acres, then they may have some responsibility for improving the roadway. So my guess is that's why they're at 5 acres and above now, to avoid that requirement.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, as I did the calculation, someone under RMX 10 would have the right to do about 43 units for this parcel alone, even going to RUD. I mean, that significantly reduces it to 17 if they were to max that out. But I think the motion on the table is to not only rezone it to RUD, but to limit it to what they're requesting, which I fully support. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We move now to old business. First item is council to consider amending and second reading of an ordinance to amend section 153.16A1 and deleting section A2 of the York County Code of Ordinances in order to reduce the size of the York County Planning Commission to 7 district-specific members appointed by council, to remove at-large membership to the board, and to provide for other matters related thereto.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve. Any other discussion?
Yes, as I've done before, I'm going to oppose reducing these down from its current existence down to 7. And the reason is, I believe the at-large positions are important. Often, I've never served on planning commissions, so I may be speaking out of turn specifically, but It could be that when something's going on in a district, other people just tend to go along with it and agree, but two people that are serving in an at-large position might hopefully take a look at something going on in the district and challenge it, and encourage other people to consider challenging as well, if it makes sense for it to be challenged. But when you only have district representation, I'm not sure you're going to get that same effect. So I think there was a reason why we have at-large seats, so I do not support removing the at-large seats.
Mr. Roddy?
I'm going to support going to 7 because I made the statement months ago when we was faced with the challenge with our library board, and I made that statement then that if we're going to reduce that board to 7, we need to take a hard look at reducing all the other boards to 7, because I don't want it to look like this council's been cherry picking or hypocritical or whatever we did back there with the library board. If 7 members is good enough for the library board, 7 members is good enough for the planning commission and every other board that we have. Now, I do understand that there's one board that's going to come up and ask to hold on to their members, but right now, we need to leave it to district specific, one representative per district, because eventually those at-large seats are going to come from a district that gives that district more voting authority over other districts. If we keep it to 7, each district has only one representative. Now, I'll go on record to say the last 13 years I've been on this council, an at-large seat has never came from District 4. They've always come from other districts. Even if my representative was for something or against something, one district can have 2 votes against it the other way. The only way we can be fair to the process, and we're here for a process. The process is fair with one representative per district. Cut out all the extra power to any one specific district, good or bad, expertise or not. We have to make sure we're protecting the process, and I think the process is fair and equitable. It's not equitable to a district that only have one representative and at-large seats pack the board with 2. Matter of fact, 2 at-large seats can come from the same district, and now that district has 3 voices on one board, which I think totally gets the board out of balance. So we have to consider what the good and the bad, and I think in this case, we can possibly have more bad than good. Granted that some people can bring some extra expertise and ideas, but if we're about the process, it's fair. It wouldn't be right if we had at-large members on this council, and now all of a sudden District 3, District 2, District 5 has 2 voices sitting up here versus against all of our one voice that sits up here. And that's what I look at when we're talking about fairness, equity, balance. I wouldn't want to sit up here and have District 4 have an extra representative and an at-large seat, and no one else would have an at-large seat on this council. That wouldn't be fair on this council, and it certainly doesn't make it fair to people that serve on our boards and commissions. So we need to go to 7, 1 per district.
Any other discussion?
Yeah. So I agree with that, and one of the at-large members currently is a District 4 person. The person that won't have a seat is actually a District 4 person. But I agree, it is, you know, when we did redistricting, one of the biggest changes that happened when we redistricted countywide was that we created District 7 that only represented Fort Mill. It no longer went below the Catawba River into Rock Hill, which eliminated a 4th voice on behalf of Rock Hill. And I as a District 2 council representative, and for those other districts who were not Rock Hill, I think that was a very positive thing. So it gave us more so, you know, Rock Hill's a big area, so we do still have a few people that represent Rock Hill, but it gave the people of Fort Mill a dedicated voice in Debbie Kleininger, that seat. And I think the same is true of the Planning Commission. So I don't have any qualms about reducing that down to seven members.
Yeah, I just want to kind of second the conversation a little bit. I do, Bob, Allison, I do agree with your comments in regards to, you know, the balance of one district, one person, again, it's, there is value in, I think, consulting and speaking with people and having them involved. I 100% agree with it, 100%. But I think when it comes to a balanced approach, I can't think of a better way to have one person represent one district. It really does fair and balance it across. Again, I think that those people will take feedback and will, you know, they will take feedback across the board. But again, I do agree with your statement.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Opposed?
Motion carries 6-1. We move now to item number 2, council to consider second reading of an ordinance to amend sections 32.36, A1 and A3 of York County Code of Ordinances in order to reduce the size of the York County Culture and Heritage Commission to 7 district-specific members appointed by county council, to remove ex officio membership to the board, and to provide for other matters related thereto.
Move to approve.
We have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Roddy?
It's my understanding ex officio officers don't vote, correct?
Correct.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to point out.
So I just
They're
want,
not voting.
I just wanted to clarify with that. So, with this one specifically, because it's not clear here, are we reducing this to 7 members? I don't know how many actual board members they have now, in addition to those, ex officio members.
There are only 7 members
There
of
are
that
only
board,
7
with
members,
2 ex
okay.
officio
So-
non-voting members, and they don't go to constituting a quorum either.
Okay, so in this case, I feel like ex officio, is maybe a good thing, where these are people who, I mean, we've got former Mayor of York, Eddie Lee, we've got Carolyn Mendenhall, who is just a wealth of historical, information and going back many years. And so, I think that's needed on this board. In a case like this and the, you know, Keep York County Beautiful Board, sometimes you want to keep people engaged, and I think these folks add to the efforts of the board. In this case, we've got Brattonsville, which is very historical, and, you know, it's hard to find people that, a lot of times, that see the value in those things. I mean, there are boards sometimes that it's hard to get people to apply for. This is one of them, because, you know, I've had people that were interested. I have a great person from District 2 on that board, but I've had other people who were, you know, kind of interested, but just reluctant because they didn't feel like they knew enough about the history. So, in this case, I feel differently than I did on the last one. I do feel like these ex officio members who are non-voting members just lend themselves to, the better decisions by that board.
I can concede to allow an ex officio since they're not voting.
Not voting.
Because the
Yeah.
concern was the voting power for a district. That way, you're still able to get that expertise factor and some contributing factors that we probably would lose. So
So
Yeah.
do you withdraw your motion?
I could withdraw my motion on that.
Do we have a new motion?
So
Motion to deny?
Okay.
Do you want to
I'm
make a motion?
requesting,
I'll let you,
get a new
Okay,
motion.
okay, I'm gonna make a motion to deny.
I'll second it.
Motion and a second. All right,
Yeah.
do we have any other discussion?
So I think, you know, after, again, the discussion we had on the first one, again, I think that one of the comments or the concerns is that, you know, the opportunity to have that consulting. Again, at the end of the day, it's about one vote per district, okay, one vote. This is different, okay? This is different. So I'm gonna be supporting your motion. Yeah.
I'm going to challenge you to say that, and I'm just going to go from personal experience. So since I graduated from college in 1989, I've probably served on at least 20 boards. And I think some of you have served on boards as well. And the makeup of the board is typically made up from the committees that are created on the board to get work done. So if you have 4, 5, 6 committees and you have officers, then that normally dictates how many board members you have. So I would guess that in the county, the boards that are created and the number of board members that are on it were on it at one point in time because they served a purpose. They were serving to chair a committee. They were serving to chair an event. They were doing something on the board. That's how they got to the number. I think it's unfortunate that the boards and commissions that were voting to reduce down to 7, not all of them came to share with us the reasons why they need more than 7 members. And the last thing I'll say is about at-large. You know, I'm only 11 months in on council, and when I decided to run for county council, I not only decided to run for District 6, but I said that I would represent the county as a whole as well, and I feel like to this date, I've done that job. So I would only hope that if anybody decided to run in an at-large capacity, no matter what district they came from in York County, they would do their job to fulfill their obligation to represent the county as a whole and not show favoritism towards a district. I know I'm beating a dead horse, but I feel like I have to say it.
Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. We move now to item number 12 that was moved from consent agenda. Approve applicants for service for boards and commissions from Finance and Operations Committee meeting on November 20th, 2023. Pierre Langevin, York County Forever, District 7. Vicki Smith, Board of Assessment Appeals, District 7. Paul Watts, Leslie Fire District Board. Joe Coggins, Leslie Fire Tax Board. Daniel Vanasta, Bethel Lake Wiley Land Acquisition and Preservation Parks District Board. And moves John Segura from the at-large seat to the vacant District 2 seat on Planning Commission. Do we have a motion?
A motion to approve with exceptions.
I think you need to fully state the motion so we can get a
Okay.
second.
A motion to approve with the 2 following exceptions. Number 1, that no member can serve on a board that has previously resigned, rotated off because they have fulfilled their term commitment, or they didn't meet the requirements of the board, so they had to come off the board. They didn't meet attendance for whatever reason. Those individuals should not be able to serve again until a full term is expired on that same board. That's number 1. Number 2, time served is credited on the new board in this new 7-member that you all have approved. Time served would get credited, so if you've served 2 years out of 4, you've served 2, you have 2 left.
I would just say, if you wanted to refer this to the Finance and Operations Committee, I mean, you're talking about an ordinance change. We are approving people who've been recommended by the Finance and Operations Committee, and if you would like to make a suggestion on an ordinance change, then that would be something that we would you could refer to the Finance and Operations Committee, and I'd like to get a little more detail of exactly what you're saying, but we would certainly look at that.
I think the appropriate motion in that case would be a motion to defer the item until you have additional information. But I think for purposes of council understanding, my understanding is the request, if someone moves from one capacity to another, do they serve, does their time start again as a matter of ordinance? Or does it, do you finish your term and then put you in a position to where you're moving forward? I think that's the question.
Yeah, if a new person moves into takes.
Is that the question?
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, you've got it.
Sounds like he's putting stipulations on the conditions for which someone can serve on a board. Placing limitations if one is resigned or has nearing the end of the term, but those are, we have an ordinance that specifies the calculations that are involved in how to calculate terms, how to mandate the condition of resignation. We only have one board currently that has a resignation provision in it, and the master ordinance does not. We could change that to add that to it if we wanted. But that's an ordinance amendment to the structure and organization of boards. This is an approval of various board members seeking to sit in vacancies, and that's a different mechanism.
So I guess I'm hearing it a little different, I mean, from what you're saying, because what I'm hearing is that if somebody served 2 years on one seat, or 1 year, and then they got pushed over to another year, they would just serve the one other year until that term would come up. I mean, I think seems to be a fair and balanced approach. I would,
Well, that's one of the 2 points, you're right.
yeah.
There are limitations on service. So if you can only serve 2 consecutive terms before having to sit off a year, the ordinance is silent with regards to switching seats, but I think overall structure would be that once you serve 2 terms, your limit's up on 1 board.
Is the question going from an at-large to just a regular member now? Is that where the question comes in? Hey, I've served 2 years in at-large. We're getting rid of at-large, now I'm going into a regular district. Does the 2 years at-large count against my?
Yes, that's still voting service and membership on a
Okay.
board.
So the time starts once you're in that, on that particular board?
It doesn't extend it. It's not extended.
Right.
If you've got a 4-year term and you've served 2 in at-large and you're moved to a regular seat,
You got 2
you've got
left.
You have 2 years
you've got
left.
You got 2 left.
That is
got 2
correct,
years.
okay.
So the at-large members being moved to a new position must come up for reappointment after their
Next
current,
2 years.
Term expires.
whatever it is.
Yes.
If it's 2 years or if it's a year left on your existing
Yeah.
term.
Yes.
That makes
But if they're
sense.
moved over from an at-large seat and they
I think
have 1
that's the
year left, then they would only have 1 year left in that new seat if they're
Yes,
appointed.
that's right. They would serve out the remainder of their sitting term.
All
Okay.
right, so the
So that's one of the things that is concerning.
clarification has been made as a matter of record, I think. Is there I forget, what motion are we at? I think it's appropriate to move to approve, if that answers your question.
It does, because it satisfies my 2 concerns. Moving from the elimination of at-large to 7 members. Those 2 items are addressed in what our attorney has said.
So I
is
understand
in
you've
the
withdrawn your
ordinance.
motion, and now it's to
I don't even
approve.
really have to withdraw it because it accomplishes it anyway, right?
You gotta withdraw the motion.
We gotta approve it.
Okay, I withdraw the motion.
Do we have a
Move to
motion?
approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. We do not have any new business tonight, and we don't have any committee and other reports. We move now to our citizen concerns. Greg Johnson to address council regarding his concerns with unsecured load ordinance. He's not here? All right. John Mattingly to address council regarding code enforcement.
Thank you. J.J. Mattingly, 30-plus years, veteran business owner of Mighty Motors, 1384 East Alexander Love Highway, York, South Carolina. I'm also presently serving as commander of both the Clover and the American Clover VFW and the Clover American Legion. I stand before you tonight to beg York County Council to force code enforcement to comply with the U.S. Constitution, specifically Article 1, Section 10, ex post facto, so that I will not be forced to file a $1 million lawsuit and win. I hope I have your attention. Now, I should not have to beg, being a veteran business owner and all, but I am a humble, God-fearing man who would rather try honey than castor oil any day. I have no desire to take legal action. I love the people of York County, and they have loved me for decades. But the big developers that have invaded us seem to hate anything that's not new, not brand new. They use code enforcement as a weapon to complain against their new neighbors, which they think is their right, bless their hearts. What is not their right is to retroactively enforce the massive March 2022 recode revisions against businesses and residents who were already approved under the previous rules. To quote my favorite scene in Galaxy Quest, oh, that's not right. But that is exactly what is happening. It's like the Oliver Anthony song, wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. Ex post facto is nothing new. It was unfairly used by European despots, kings, and queens for centuries against their subjects, so much so that our founding fathers specifically forbade it in the Constitution. But who reads the Constitution anymore, right? This veteran did. I took an oath to defend that Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And so did you council members. So did our police, our firefighters, and even our York County Council Board volunteers. I came before this council before, but the 2 minutes was just not long enough for me to explain what's going on, and tonight I thought I'd have a little fun with it. Here's the thing. Myself and all the others being attacked by York County Code Enforcement simply want to be held to the agreements from when we were legally approved. Think of it as marriage vows. Ask your spouse if it would be okay if you revised your marriage vows. If you dare, I recommend you don't. Anyway, one more thing. As a veteran of hundreds of parliamentary meetings with veterans, a simple, elegant solution would be to make a motion that, or a declaration, the council never intended the March 2022 recode to be retroactive or enforced retroactively, because that would be an obvious ex post facto violation of the U.S. Constitution. Remember, CYA was invented by the military. Thank you for letting me speak. Please take quick action on this. I'm told quite a few people have taken an interest in this on Nextdoor and other online sites to the tune of like 70,000 views. So, hey y'all, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do we have any council member new non-agenda comments before we move into executive session?
I guess I'll start off. First of all, there's a birthday coming up, and that birthday boy is Tommy. So happy birthday there,
What
my man.
about you?
Well, hey, look, I can't, you know what I mean? So we happen to have the same birthdays. So there you go, man. We're sharing. I didn't wear my suspenders
Thank
tonight,
you.
though. I should have. You know?
And,
That's it.
and I would like to recommend, look how spiffy Buck looks.
Yeah, there you go. There you go, there you go.
I must admit, I would have expected anybody else in this crowd to
There
wear
you
them.
go.
Major miscommunication, I apologize.
Hey, I do want to wish everybody also, too, if I don't see y'all next time around, y'all have a safe and Merry Christmas.
Yeah,
Well, you better be here. We got
And-
one more meeting before
Yeah.
Christmas.
It'll
and,
be the blue suit meeting for that
That's
meeting.
it, it's going to be a blue suit meeting.
and I would also like for everybody to remember, Lee Good, who passed away, good friend, business owner, Goods Heating and Air, and Comer Oil, and sympathies to their family.
Mr. Roddy,
I definitely want to go on the record as to why I have my suspenders on.
stand up.
Oh, excuse me, my overalls. So I thought it was a
Hey,
cool
hey.
idea.
Bibbs.
Bibs. So I thought it was a cool idea to do this for Tommy. You know, he's new member on council. He's been working really hard. We've had a lot of fun joking back and forth. I will acknowledge we had a couple meetings that it wasn't too good between us, but we've learned since then how things go on council, and Tommy's really doing a good job. He fights really hard for his district. So I wore this tonight in honor and recognition of his birthday, and at the next meeting, I'll wear a regular necktie for Tom Ardette to show him some appreciation. But I think it's cool that you two guys share the same birthday. But I did want to do this for Tommy, and as a olive branch, welcome to council, even 12 months, 11 months after you've been here. So
Well, thank you. It does mean something. But you also now know how not to have to worry about your britches falling down.
I can't wait to see what y'all wear on my birthday.
I'm not wearing a skirt, I
A
tell you.
wig. We're
Yeah,
gonna wear a
we'll say
wig.
that. Do we have a motion for executive session?
I have two things I need to share very quickly.
Oh,
One,
of course.
well, both of them are kind of serious, I guess. Number one, this will be quick. So we asked the auditor's office to complete an audit on the amount of money that's being spent in monitoring and security, and he's completed that audit. I'd like to ask Aaron to come back to our next meeting and report to council the results of that audit, please. Is that okay?
What is the report again?
The audit.
When
that
was this requested
completed
from
on
council?
not-for-profits.
Was this
has been-
requested?
Yeah, and he's completed the audit. It was completed back in last month.
If management wants to put a report and it thinks that that's
Yeah.
something that's been requested, then
Yeah,
certainly
just have him
management can put
quickly
it on
give
there.
us a report on that. And then the second thing is that, some of you may not know, but my nephew plays football for Clemson. He walked on 2 years ago, made the team. And this past season at the Georgia Tech game, which was Military Appreciation Day, he was asked to sing the national anthem. He was the first football player in the NCAA to actually sing the national anthem for the team, and it did a remarkable job. But here's the point. So last Saturday, we were in Columbia for the Carolina-Clemson game. It was actually, I took my grandson. It was his first Carolina-Clemson game, first away game. It was my 49th consecutive Carolina-Clemson game. And Coach Beamer took the time to run across the field and congratulate my nephew for doing such a great job singing the national anthem. And I just have to say, I'd said it all along, but he is really a class act, and I hope the University of South Carolina and their supporters understand the jewel they have in a coach down in Columbia. But just a class act and a strong move on his part. Just want to share that with you because Blackman was a student at Clover High School. His mother is Sheila Quinn, who's a superintendent of education in Clover, and I'm real proud of him for what he's done.
Thank you, sir. Do we have a motion?
Yeah, we sure do. So we get two items. Receipt of legal advice, contractual matter, SCDOT roadway construction contracts, receipt of legal advice, litigation update.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, we will move straight into executive session.
Plug all my cords.
Debbie, can we have your line back?
Thanks for letting me plug in over there on you today. Man, I apologize. Well, you're the only one that responded and said that you were good with it. But I didn't think, nobody said they were gonna do it, except, the lady said they were not gonna do it. Not because they would want to, it's just whatever. Because
Cover
There you go.
off.
Who was it who made, no, somebody made the request that we do Christmas attire and suits or
What
whatever.
y'all two clowns laughing at? I'd like to see y'all in a pair of bills.
Claus.
Yeah, you'd be good.
We are out of executive session. No action was taken. Do we have a new motion?
Yeah, we have one motion. Motion for council to authorize county management and county attorney office and council to consider approval of an agreement or agreements addressing SCDOT roadway construction contracts as addressed in executive session.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.